Today's topic is errors on the suspense account and it's prepared and presented by Mr. James. We have three kinds of errors which unbalances their trial balance. And these types of errors would need a suspense account to correct. The first type of error is the single entry. An example of it was be where you withdraw money from your business. You enter it correctly in the cash book on the credit side, but you did not enter it in the drawings account. Therefore, you have it entered in one account only, and that is called single entry. It's an error. It will unbalance your trial balance. Secondly, we have unequal entry. Uh, An example is where you have paid rent, or you enter it debit rent 350, but you credit it in the cash book as 530. If you notice, the amounts there are different. They are unequal. So the debits and the credits are unequal. We call that unequal entry. And thirdly, we have what is called add-in errors. These where you add incorrectly in one or more accounts or in a book of original entry. Okay, so these three types of errors will unbalance your trial balance, and you will need to get or create a suspense account to correct it. Okay, these are the steps that you would take in correcting the errors. First, you would create a suspense account to make the trial balance totals agree. We will look at that shortly. Secondly, you determine the accounts in which the error was made. And thirdly, you write a journal entry to correct the error in the general ledger. Once you know the account in which the error is made, you can find it in the general ledger and correct it there. And four, you will post the journal entry to the ledgers. Okay. First, let's look at how you're going to create a suspense account. Okay, now when these types of errors take place, the totals in your trial balance will disagree. In other words, they will not be equal. The debit and the credit columns will not be equal. So in this example we have here, after we total all the accounts, the balances were 100,000 debit and 99,960 credit. They are not equal. So what we do to make them equal is we open a suspense account for the difference, and we put it in the difference in that suspense account. In this case, the credit side was missing 40, and we put it in the suspense account here, and both sides will now be equal. Okay, so after that, we go to our general ledger and we open a suspense account, the actual account itself, and we put in the amount. Okay, so that's how you create the suspense account. The procedure for correcting the errors is once the suspense account is set up, it is necessary to check the accounts to find any situation where a debit equal entry has not been matched by a credit entry. As each of these errors is found, a correction is made in the ledger account containing the error, and a matching entry, it could be debit or credit, is made in the suspense account. When all the errors in the matching the double entry have been found, the suspense account would be closed off. In other words, after you correct all your errors, both sides of the suspense account, the totals would be equal. And if you were to draw up a trial balance again at that stage, the totals of the trial balance also would be agreeing. Okay, so that's your procedure. We want to look next at a work example. We have a general ledger. The trial balance does not balance. The totals are 38,400 debit and 38,800 credit. So we start a suspense account with 400 on the debit side to make this 800. So the balance now balances. Okay, then we open the suspense account with the balance of 400 on the debit side. Notice it's in the debit column here, and we put it in the debit side of the suspense account here. All right. First error is the payment of water charges by check 420 had been recorded as follows: debit water charges 240, credit bank 420. Notice the figures are unequal. All right. So you have what is called an unequal entry, and that will cause your trial balance to unbalance. All right. Next, we will notice that the credit in the bank account is correct. All right. It's credited for 420. We made a payment for 420. It should be credited with 420. But the debit in the water charges account is 240 only. So the error is in the water charges account. The error in the water charges account, the bank account is correct. So the journal entry required to correct the mistake is as follows. We don't need to put in the whole 420 again. We already have 240. So we only going to put in the difference. The difference is 180. So we need to debit water charges with 180 more. And we will have no place as the credit but the suspense account. All right, we cannot go and credit the bank account again because it was always correct. Okay, so this side of the entry must go in the suspense account 180, and we write in a short narrative to explain what we are doing here. Otherwise, nobody would know what we are doing here. Another accountant reading your work will not be able to tell what you have done here. So we write in the narrative correction of misposting of payment for water charges. Okay. This is how we would post it to the ledger account now. The ledger accounts would appear as follows when this journal entry is posted. We have the water charges account. This is the original 240 that we put in. The suspense account, the error is now added 280, so this now comes up to 420, and the credit here, this and this go together 180. Okay, the balance from the suspense account till there. All right, notice this here will reduce the amount of your error in your trial balance by 180. We have the error 2. The total of discounts allowed column in the cash book was miscast. The word cast here is to add. It's part of the accounting jargon. Casting means added. So when you misadd, it means you add incorrectly. The total correct should have been 70, but the accounts clerk total was 90. So he went over by 90 by 20. Okay, so it is overcast. The error is in the discounts allowed account, right? So we can identify it as being in discounts allowed column. The entries for discounts allowed in the account receivable account are correct because the individual entry in discount allowed column are correct. So the journal entry required to correct the mistake is as follows. Okay, so the error was not in the individual entries in the discount allowed column, but in the adding of the column. So it's just the total from the cash book that is incorrect. Okay, so notice the figures. The difference is 20. We do not put back in the entire amount. So the discounts allowed, we need to take 20 off it. The discount allowed is normally a debit on the debit side of the cash book. So we have to credit it with 20 to reduce it to the 70. And we will have no place else to credit but the suspense account. Okay? Again, we put in a narrative. Correction of posting of miscast discounts allowed column. The ledger accounts, after we have posted this entry, would look like this. Discounts, this is the original 90 that was put in an error, and we reduce it by 20 here to make it down to 70. And in the suspense account, we put in the discounts allowed of 20. Notice the previous balance of 400 and the water charges in the previous entry are still there. So we're not using a new suspense account, we're using the same suspense account. Okay. However, this 20 will increase back the error. Okay, so that can happen. Although you have your trial balance unbalanced for 400, the errors could in fact be for much more than that, because it could decrease there and then increase back here and so on until this balance is eliminated. Uh, Finally, we have a error of single entry. Cash drawings of 240 had been correctly entered in the cash book, but no entry had been made in the drawings account. Okay, the error is in the drawings account, not the cash book, right? Because it says we have correctly entered it in the cash book. The journal entry required to correct the mistake would be to put it in the drawings account, and then the other side will go in the suspense account. So the entries required to correct omission of entry from drawings account. See these narratives, you can take them from here and learn them, and you can use them for any transaction in the tree. But when you have single entry, make sure you use this one. When you have add an error, make sure you use this one. All right, just change the names of the account as necessary. Okay, so in the drawings account, we will post the 240, and in the suspense account, we will post the 240. What we notice now is both sides are equal to 420. We have eliminated the balance here. Sometimes it takes more, it has more errors than these, and we have to make more entries than these in the suspense account before the 400 or whatever the balance is eliminated. Now, at this stage, if you were to take a trial balance again from your ledgers, the trial balance would be balanced. And you can go ahead and use it to make your financial statements. Okay, we have here a question for you, practice questions. The totals in the trial balance. You notice they are different. Make the suspense account, and then you have each one of the different types of errors taking place here, and you can correct them accordingly. Okay, part A and part B. So I will bring the